What is up, and welcome back to another edition of the Creamsicle Chronicle podcast. My name is JT Olson. My camera, for some reason, decided to stop working, so you get to see my show icon if you're watching this live on YouTube. But it's all about what we have to say. And there's a lot to say about what the Bucs did last weekend over the course of the draft. Grades are coming out. Everyone seems to have rave reviews for what the Bucs did, and I do too. I feel like we have one of the best draft classes in the NFL this year, and of course, that's nothing new. Jason Light, always one of the best drafters in the NFL. I mean, he's on the short list of guys like Brad Holmes, Howie Roseman, Les Snead, the top tier of GM drafters. That's Jason Light every year for quite a while now. And 2026, some of his best work, I really think so. And that starts in round one. Getting Ruben Bain, the big, thickly built edge rusher from Miami. And, everyone has their opinions. I do a lot of draft work leading up to this. I do summer scouting. I do draft content all year round. Ruben Bain was the top 3 player in the draft for me. He was my 3rd overall player. Better than Arvell Reese, better than David Bailey. He was the guy to get. And some people have a lot to say about his arm length. And honestly, I don't care. I don't care that he has short arms because I never cared watching him on tape. Offensive tackles didn't care when he was putting them in the blender and blowing past them. It's only an issue if it's an issue. And for Ruben Bain, it's never an issue. His hand usage is fantastic. He is powerful. He is bendy. He has more juice off the line of scrimmage than I think a lot of people realize. He can close the gap between him and the quarterback quickly. This is, by all accounts, the pass rusher to get. It's this year's Aiden Hutchinson. It's this year's Jared Verse. Pick your top-tier pass rusher in the NFL. That's what we got in Ruben Bain. I really think he's that kind of talent. Arm length be damned. So that's incredibly exciting. I could not be more ecstatic with the Ruben Bain pick. High football character. He eats, breathes, sleeps football. Nothing but positive things to say about him. And, he is that perfect pick of the Bucs. I am that man. High character. He is the perfect pick of attitude and toughness and violence that the team wanted to get. He is the perfect pick in terms of the pass rusher that this front seven needed. And on top of that, he's a very good run defender. I mean, he's 270 pounds. He's powerful at the point of attack. So I think this is a home run. This is an A-plus pick. So I'm really excited about getting Ruben Bain, what he means to this front seven, because not only are they adding Ruben Bain to this pass rush, they're adding Kalijah Cansey to what they had last year, who missed 90% of the season with injury, and they're getting David Walker back as a depth pass rusher. So I think this pick really makes this pass rush something to be feared. And he could be the best player on that group. I think he has that kind of potential. Maybe not year one because Kalijah's really good and Yaya has more experience, but don't be surprised at all if Bain comes in, gets you 8 sacks right off the bat. And he's consistently around that 9, 11, 12 sack mark year in and year out. I mean, players like him, they just don't come around that often. definitely not at pick 15. So A+, no notes, the perfect pick. I could not be more ecstatic about it. Then round two. Round two is where a lot of people had more conflict. They had more issue with the pick. Bucks took Josiah Trotter, linebacker out of Missouri, son of former NFL Pro Bowler Jeremiah Trotter. And I was fine with that pick. It was a little earlier than I would have liked to get him, but you got to get your guy. And Jacob Rodriguez off the board, I think he was the guy to get. Would I have taken a guy like Jake Golday? Yeah, I probably would have personally. But that comes with the caveat that Golday is more of a project. He has been an edge rusher. He's been a hang linebacker. He just doesn't have the experience playing middle linebacker that Trotter does. So, there's some growing pains there. But I liked Golday's coverage ability. I like that he can be used as a pass rusher. And I think he has a lot of potential to be that good Mike linebacker with more experience. But Bucks decided they wanted Trotter. And I get that. This is a plug-and-play guy, an impact run defender. And if you're going to get a box linebacker, go get yourself a really good box linebacker. Someone who just blows up guards and is violent at the point of attack. That's who Trotter is. He is going to make you feel his presence. Running backs are going to be very aware of where Trotter is. Guards are going to be very aware. Centers climbing to the second level are going to be very aware, because that is a violent collision with him, and I love that. It's becoming a more and more run-heavy league, and this is a plus run defender. I feel really good about that aspect of his game. Now, coverage is another story. He's not there yet. He just isn't polished in that area. His instincts aren't great yet. I don't think he's an elite athlete, so I think he'll always, at his very best, be average in coverage. But he's still got to get there. He just needs more time. And I think he looked better towards the end of the season than he did the beginning, which, that's what you want with a prospect. Someone who's learning and growing. That's kind of evidence that they have learned and are growing. But he's still got a ways to go. And you just have to be situational with it. Plug him in first and second down, let him blow up the run. If they're going to throw it, fine. He's not that much of a liability. I think he can be functional in coverage, specifically zone. But, get him off the field on third downs. Blitz him on third downs. That's something he's good at. Use him and put him in a position that's going to maximize his talent. Bring in another safety, take him off the field. That's what you do in passing downs. And that's just fine. I'm absolutely fine with that. He doesn't have to be a perfect player because, spoiler alert, there wasn't a perfect player on the board. Now, CJ Allen, you could say, is a little bit better in coverage, but he's also more limited in the box. He's not as good as a run defender. He's not as violent. He's not as physical. Josiah Trotter is a better linebacker than CJ Allen. And then you got the knee injury with CJ Allen. So no issue with that pick. Same with Anthony Hill. Some people really liked Anthony Hill. I thought he was a third-round talent. I would have been upset if they took Anthony Hill in that spot. Josiah Trotter is just a better player. And you remember, Trotter is still super young. Only 20 years old. Only played 2 years of college football. One at West Virginia, one at Missouri. So you're getting a guy on the ground floor. His best football is still ahead of him. And he's physically ready to come in and bang at the NFL level, hit people. He has the physical profile of a professional. He just needs the mental profile. He needs more experience. And one way to get him that is to play him. And I think that's a really good spot for him. The way Todd Bowles is going to blitz him, get him in the backfield. He had like 13 tackles for a loss last year. And, one thing I'll say about him, and I've seen compared to Devin White because you kind of use them in a similar way. Attack, blitz, to defend the run, even though Trotter's a better run defender. One thing I'll say about Trotter, he's very in control. Where Devin White, he was kind of a loose cannon. You blitz him, he'll bail on coverage to try and make a play. Trotter, he's a very in-control player. Controlled violence. That's the best way to summarize what he's about. He's smart. He's disciplined. He needs to refine some things in his awareness, but once he does, this is a very smart football player. I have every confidence that light is going to continue to turn on for him, and he's going to be your attack linebacker of the future. He's going to be your Devin White. He's going to be your KJ Britt plus. Obviously way more athletic than KJ Britt, but he's that guy who is going to be the strong side. He's going to be blowing up blocks. He's going to be making tackles. He's going to be that volume tackle guy. And right now you have Alex Anzalone, who's more of that weak side linebacker, that coverage linebacker. Those two are a really good complement to each other. And eventually you'll look to replace Anzalone's skill set with a younger guy. But here and now, you need that attack linebacker. Because Servassier Dennis, he is that same style. You keep him moving forward. But last year, he was lost in coverage. Same with Roseboom, who you signed in the offseason. An attack linebacker, a box linebacker, not very good in coverage. Trotter's a better talent than both those guys. And once he starts to get that mental part, he's going to hold down that spot for the next 4 to 8 years. And I feel really good about that. Third round. This is one of the big steals of the draft, in my opinion. Ted Hurst, wide receiver from Georgia State. And I say it as a question mark because that is a very forgettable football team. I think they won 2 games this year. This is a bad football team. They had 3 different quarterbacks start for them for multiple games. It was just a lost offense. And Ted Hurst was the bright spot. He was their highlight player. You can hit him with a quick screen, and he has pull-away speed to just run away from people. It's a little bit build-up. He's not super explosive, but once he gets going, he's hard to catch. He ran 4.4, 4.3 at the combine. He's legit fast. So you get him with that quick screen, and he can take it a while. You hit him on a slant, you got to tackle him. Otherwise, he's going to take it to the house. We saw that with Calvin Johnson back in the day. He can be that vertical threat. He's that big body player, that traditional X, 6'4", 208 pounds, I believe. He can go up and get the ball. He can use his massive catch radius to really pull in just about anything you're going to throw to him. So I think that's a great compliment to guys like McMillan, guys like Ibuka, and I think that really rounds out your wide receiver room very nicely. We know Hurst is that outside player, and then you can just kind of rotate McMillan and Ibuka in and out of the slot and outside, kind of pick your matchup. And that's your wide receiver group of the future. That's a really good group. A lot of talent there. And, on top of that, you got Chris Godwin this year. So I think it's a skill set the Bucs didn't have in the room, which I appreciate. I like getting a variety of talents at wide receiver and just letting them do what they do best. Letting McMillan work the middle of the field, letting Ibuka work the middle of the field, picking up yards after catch, letting Hurst run deep, use his size, use his speed. They complement each other. And that's what it's all about. So I'm really excited for Hurst. I don't necessarily think he'll be the big-time starter this year, but next year, after Chris Godwin is gone, Ted Hurst is going to be, he's going to be in the mix for the number 1 guy. He's that kind of talent. And that's saying a lot because I think very highly of Jalen McMillan. Emeka Ibuka was a first-round pick last year. He was in the mix and really the front runner for Rookie of the Year for most of the season. So to say Ted Hurst is going to be on that level, I feel like he's that kind of talent. I have no qualms with that. Now, does that mean he's going to be the next Mike Evans? No, I'm not saying that. Mike Evans is a future Hall of Famer. That's more pressure to put on a 3rd-round pick than is necessary. No one's Mike Evans. But I'd be lying if I said it wasn't a similar skill set. Mike Evans obviously bigger. Ted Hurst ran faster. high points the ball, red zone threat, vertical threat. He can stop on the dime. I think that's my favorite part about Ted Hurst is his feet are excellent. He'll get you running, and he'll just throw on the brakes and do a comeback, and he'll pick up that first down. So, the way he wins is very similar to how Mike Evans wins. And I think the offense is really going to appreciate having another decade worth of that skill set in there. 4th round, Keontae Scott. Nickelback, Miami. And I said Ted Hurst is one of the steals of this draft. Keontae Scott is one of the steals of this draft as well. And dude is just an animal in the box. He had 5 sacks last year with Miami. He is just a pit bull versus the run. He is small, but he is going to hit you. He is super fast, 4.3 speed. He is very smart, high IQ player. He is that kind of player who you never want to play. He's too fast. He's too physical. He's too smart. It's hard to imagine him not being successful in the NFL. Especially the way Todd Bowles likes to blitz his defensive backs. No one blitzes like Todd Bowles does. I mean, it is a short list of guys. Minnesota, what they got up there, Brian Flores, Todd Bowles, they are masterful with the way they blitz. And, the nickel blitz, we've seen it with Winfield, we've seen it with Tyke Smith, we've seen it with Jacob Parrish. I think Keontae Scott is going to be a natural fit with what the Bucs are trying to do right now. And with his speed, his violence, he's going to be great at it. Absolutely great. And his coverage skills, they're good too. This is a player who I thought was going in the 2nd round. And he didn't. He didn't go in the 3rd round. For some reason, he went down in the 4th round. Teams don't value the nickel like they should in the NFL. We've seen that time and time again with guys like Brian Branch falling to the 2nd round. Fast forward, he's one of the best safeties and nickels in the NFL. Tyke Smith falling to the end of the 3rd round. Fast forward, he's one of the best safeties and nickels in the NFL. Now, Keontae Scott. It makes no sense to me. Why let these great football players slide in the draft? You're going to use them. They're going to make an impact. Why not have them make an impact for your team? So I'm ecstatic about that pick. Can't speak highly enough about these first 4 picks. Home run, home run, home run. Maybe Trotter's a double, but I'm still very happy with it. Then after that, it's about filling out your roster with role players. 5th round, you got a pair of trench players. DeMonte Capehart and Billy Schroff. Capehart, big nose tackle out of Clemson, long arms, powerful. Wasn't my cup of tea here. He was in that tier of players who I thought the Bucs would be looking at. Guys like Capehart, guys like Rashawn Benny from Michigan. I personally liked Brandon Cleveland from NC State. I think he's a little bit more mobile, a little bit more violent with his hands. So, I don't want to nitpick, but that's a player I would have preferred here. But Capehart is in that same tier. He's strong, powerful, going to hold the point of attack. He can blow up lighter centers. I think him in the rotation behind A'Shawn Robinson, that's going to be really nice depth because you're going to take guys like Robinson off the field, like Nacho off the field, like Villa off the field. And I don't think it's a massive drop-off if you're running right at Capehart. Obviously, Capehart's never going to be Vita Vea. But if you're running right at him, that's a hard dude to move. Good luck with that. Good luck running the ball at that front. You just got too many big, strong dudes there. And Capehart just adds to that rotation. Schroff is another one who's very powerful on the offensive side. Guard from Notre Dame. He was a captain. Someone who's been a bit injury prone in his career. He's missed a significant amount of time. But you know what? This is a depth player. You don't want him on the field. And if you do get him on the field, hopefully for a short period of time. So durability isn't quite as important for a depth player like that. Obviously, you don't want your depth to get injured because then you're really in trouble. But if you get a people mover in the run game, a guy who's a good pass blocker, he's got good size to him, he's smart. If you get that kind of player in the 5th round, even if there are injury question marks, I think that's a big time win. If Bredesen goes down for a month, you can plug Schroff in and not lose a ton. Obviously there's a degree of experience loss there, but Schroff can get push in the run game. He can move people against their will. He is kind of a portly, round-shaped dude, kind of rolls around, but he can roll you over. He moves well enough to get the job done. So I feel really good about that. I don't know that he's an eventual replacement for a guy like Ben Bredesen after this year, but I think he has the ability to potentially be that guy. Now, I think of him as very high-end depth, and if you're a high-end depth player, you're a potential starter. Good depth is a starter on a lesser team. So I'm excited to see him hit the field. I think you got to feel really good about that after last season when we were watching guys like Michael Jordan and just these roll out random guards who we had. Elijah Klein couldn't even be active on game day to help in the interior. So I think this is a big time upgrade in talent on the depth of your offensive line. Then you got Justin School coming back at tackle, then Chuck Woolma at tackle. You've got a real strong group there, dare I say. You got to feel good about the player you came away with in Schroff and what he brings to the depth of that offensive line group. And then you got the tight end from LSU. I'll be honest, I didn't watch him. I can't give you an opinion on him because I just haven't seen him play. I know he's athletic. He tested really well at the combine. I know he's a former quarterback, so he's a bit of a work in progress. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, this guy is taking Payne Durham's spot on the roster. But I'm not going to say that because Payne Durham is awful. Devin Culp is awful. You took a chance on a big body guy and an athletic guy, and neither one of them have turned into anything. So, maybe Sharp can take one of their spots, and I would have no issue with it, sight unseen. I don't need to know how good Sharp is to tell you how bad those other guys are in the tight end room. So if he can come in and take a job for them, good. I want upgrades there. I want better players on this football team. Is Sharp that? I have no idea. But it's a low bar to clear. And if he can come in and be a blocker, great. That's a skill set we need because Payne Durham can't block. Devin Culp can't block. They're not good enough. So even if Sharp is just that and a athlete who could be developed, sign me up. So overall, great weekend. Bucs roster looks a lot better than it did a week ago. And I'm just very excited getting ready for the season now. What this defensive line looks like, the way this linebacker core is shaping up. I think they could maybe use one more guy in that room who's a little bit more of a coverage player. But you can't fill every need in the draft. It's never possible. The Detroit Lions didn't fill every need. The Eagles didn't fill every need. The Chiefs didn't fill every need. You can't do it, not in one draft. So maybe they still add a cover linebacker. Maybe they add another depth corner. There are options out there. And that's okay that you don't have those figured out yet because what you still have is really good. A corner room of Zion McCollum, Benjamin Morrison, Jacob Parrish, Keontae Scott. There are questions to figure out there still, but there's a lot to be excited about. You feel good about Parrish. You feel good about Scott. And, Benjamin Morrison, you expect to be healthier this year, take a step forward after his rookie year. Don't forget, corner is a hard position to transition in the NFL. It's not easy to hit the ground running as a corner. So you expect him to be better in year 2. You expect Zion to be better because he couldn't have been worse. He progressed every year. Every year he'd gotten better and better until last year when he took a step back. He's got to get back to the level we'd seen 2 years ago. And if he can do that, you feel really good about this corner room. You feel really good about the secondary. You feel really good about the defensive line. All of a sudden, defense is looking pretty strong. So that's going to do it for me. Everyone should feel very excited about this class. Jason Light, another masterful year in the draft. This is why he's a top 5 GM in the NFL. He always drafts well for like half a decade in a row. He always wins on his trades. He gets select guys in free agency. Adding guys like Anzalone, adding guys like Kenneth Gainwell, guys who fit what they're trying to do. They're good pickups. They're not stars. You just drafted your star in Ruben Bain. But all in all, this roster's shaping up really nicely. With that said, that's going to do it for me. I'm JT Olson. You can follow me on Twitter at IcewaterOlson. Catch all my written work at bucksreport.com. And until next time, go Bucks.